Hey everybody, this is Camp Check, the podcast, episode 2. I'm your co-host Matt from Project Norrath.
And this is Justin. You can follow me on Twitter at @gogojira_.
I'm Rec from youtube.com/RecMMO.
And this is Michael, and you can follow me on Twitter at the Limper. No underscores or anything.
This week we're going
All
to talk
members
about
work.
starting cities and which ones we want to see make it at launch, and we're going to talk a good bit about crafting and what we think it needs to be a success in EverQuest next. I could start off with crafting. I could say I never did much of it, but I
Yeah.
really think that has a strong. I think that's tied to the fact that EverQuest or that crafting was never really important in most of the games I played. I mean, it was always like an afterthought. You would
Yeah.
craft, you would make stuff, but the items you would make were never as good as the top end raid drops or even just quest drops at the time.
Well,
It just never really seemed important.
well, yeah. In EverQuest, the EQ1, the only time I ever did any crafting was whenever I think I had to do it for my Epic quest. So up until that point, I really had never messed with it. It's nothing. It's like one of those things that I'm interested in, but I've never actually been actively involved with. But I would think with EQ next being so, going by their word, a sandbox, I think it has to play a huge part in this world. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree there. I think for this game to work right, I think crafting almost needs to be the backbone of it. I really think that crafters need to have their hand in everything. And this is just my opinion. I don't know how the people feel, but I think all the top end gear should come through crafters. I think raid drops should be more of materials. I think anything
Oh wow.
for like for cities and stuff like that, it just all needs to come through crafters. Crafters need to be the one building and funding everything.
I think this is where me and Michael may end up probably agreeing that I actually do like high-end raids to drop good items, not necessarily crafted material, just like actual high-end items. So,
Well, I think the only thing there is like if it was that way, do you create some situation where like only these top crafting people have access to everything, and you're pretty much beholden to like a few people that have the capability of getting that stuff. You never get, do you just mean like the most high end of high end gear, or are you talking about just materials in any dungeon or whatever you're in?
I mean, let me say how I think it should work, and I'm pretty sure Rec. I know we talked a little bit before the show, and he talked about the match should be what drops from raids, but I just think like if you kill a dragon, it's much more realistic and cool to see dragon scale drop, and then with that piece of dragon scale, that could be like a legendary like piece of material you have. Now you can
Dragon
go to
skin armor.
dragon skin, tooth, whatever it may be.
guys, have
to
you ever
make a
seen
dagger.
the treasure chest that a dragon sits on? Tons of weapons and
Yeah,
items.
yeah.
You're-
All right, well played.
I think it's
But
weird though that every raid mob is sitting on a treasure chest.
yeah, I think if you have crafters be more important like that, I think it plays a lot more into the community. I mean, crafters are going to feel more valued, so there's going to be more of
Yeah.
them. I don't think there's going to be a lack of them. And now not only are crafters more valuable, but your guild's more valuable because if you have a guild, obviously as a guild you want to find great crafters. So now you kind of almost create that interdependence in each guild, and I always like
Yeah.
that. I just
I
really
think what you're
if you-
saying though is there a middle ground there though, because that sounds
Yeah.
cool, but I would like to see them maybe drop unique things as maybe weapons, armor, whatever, as well as what you're saying.
Yeah,
no,
I
I mean there's
agree.
got to be regular drops, but
I think it does need to be like a balance there because I think you'll, especially in the EQ community, I think you'll piss a few people off if like you take down this top tier boss and no actual item drops. I think it's cool to get the crafters involved. And maybe that just speaks to me not ever being involved in the crafting community, but like I would expect like a high end mob to drop some form of a high end weapon. I mean maybe it's unrealistic in certain cases, but yeah, I certainly would. I don't want that to go away because crafting becomes a huge thing in EverQuest next.
Right, because you'd have like a huge group of people that were along for that particular boss or raid, and then they're all sitting there, and if you're not into crafting, then maybe they feel like they didn't get anything out of it, and the only way they're going to get some good gear out of it is if they have a bunch of money to pay the crafter.
see
So
now,
I think like maybe like a combination of both.
but let me just say this, like I think it's almost if you go to a raid and say an item drops and you're a mage and a dagger just dropped for a rogue, you showed up and nothing dropped for you anyway. Now, if material drops, that can be used to make anything across any class. That already automatically opens it up right there. And if you're in a decent guild, there's a chance. I mean, it should almost be guaranteed that you have a good crafter who's usually always logged on, or at least somebody who's not going to charge you. So it's not like it's going to
Yeah.
be money out of
I
pocket.
think it's a cool idea. I just I think I like seeing sometimes those rare drops come as well. And class based, and sometimes you have, and I don't know if you ever. I know a lot of the. I was never a huge raid guy because I've talked before, but I was always kind of like the journey up through the character, almost more than the end game. But there were numerous times where I jumped on to like just public raids. It wasn't always my guild. Sometimes I would go kill Nagafin.
Raids, yeah.
So and then everybody just got a fair chance at a roll. So I think that it is cool to get items as well. But what you're saying sounds cool because you could create some unique items with it.
Yeah. I had a couple more ideas with crafting too that I would like to see come into play. I think one of the biggest things, if there's anything I wish for crafting, it's that crafters can actually craft. And what I mean is, when I'm crafting, I don't want to be stuck to a predetermined recipe. I think I should be able to say, all right, I want to make a dagger, but I want it to be black, and I kind of want it to use this model, but I want it to be primary dexterity and secondary agility. You know what I mean? I should be able to kind of pick what I want to make and be individual.
Basically make your own recipe, sort of.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be anything.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be crazy. It can be kind of like predetermined to an extent. Like, if I pick dexterity as my main
it's
stat,
going to have certain
agility as a
effects on
second.
whatever you're making, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, I even think I think crafters should be able to name their own gear, but I don't think that should be for everything because I think that's just crazy. I don't know how they could do this in a good way. I mean, one idea I have is like, maybe you get this one crazy long cooldown, once a month that you can, use the best materials in the game and make like one crazy epic weapon and name it. But even then, I don't know if that's realistic, but I just think it would be cool if they could find a good system to work it in.
I don't like naming your crafted items.
Because it's scary, huh?
Yeah, it is scary.
Maybe with some strict regulations, so...
yeah, really strict.
Well, like maybe the best of the... Like I said, maybe if you're just a long time, Uber crafter or something. That'd be
I like the idea better that you have like your brand stamped on it or something. Maybe you can come up with a brand name. I think they already do that in EQ too, like crafted items say the name of the crafter on it.
I do like that. Did any of you ever read the Dritz books?
Yeah, I love it.
All right, you remember how Brunor? They say that like every crafter has that one their peak at crafting, and then that's kind of it for them after that. Remember when Brunor made, what was it? Aegis Fang? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, you know what you're talking about.
Oh, his hammer.
You're ringing some bells that I haven't read in a while, but I know what you're talking about.
I forget what exactly it was called, but suppose each crafter had that to where you could kind of, once you hit a certain point, you're at that peak, and you can make that one item forever that you can name. Would that be cool? Would that be more realistic to police?
You mean like if you didn't overdo it? I think that if it was such a rare instance that was limited to a small group of people, I don't think that's as much of a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like that. I don't think like gear itself, like armor, should be named, but I feel like weapons need good names.
I think the scariest part about letting people name things is what they're going to call it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but I would assume that it would have to go through some sort of, you can
filter.
Submit the name. They'll get back to you in a couple of days. It can kind of go through an electronic filter.
A cloak of some sort.
And then, spot check it. Yeah.
Fluffy bunny cloak.
But if it was capped if you had to be so experienced in it or maybe a really high level in it, then you're kind of eliminating most of the jokers anyway,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how they could do it to make it work well. I really don't. I don't have any ideas there. But like I said, I think if they could do it, I think it would be awesome to. I think I would pick up crafting and craft heavily if I had that chance that one time I could make that top weapon. But
so you guys kind of said, or we were saying that I know I didn't really craft either. What was the reason for that? I mean, what was your reason for not really getting into that?
Dude, in EQ2, they have a really cool crafting system. It's fun, it's interactive, but to me, it's grueling. Like, it's so time-consuming. I get really bored too easy. And then in EQ1, it's dude, it wasn't like worth all the work it took. Like, the only time I got into crafting, I chose pottery in EQ2, and it was.
You got me listening now.
It was because like nobody chose pottery. So I'm like, I'm gonna become a potter, and I got to make weapon ornamentations that nobody wanted to buy from me, and basically everything else I could make was useless. and I felt like I just wasted a bunch of time.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of the things I could craft are for like old quests and stuff, but like there needs to be more importance for like all the crafters. Like no matter what your craft is, like
See, in my case, the only
it
time
needs to
I
be
ever
more useful.
Yeah, I only ever got into crafting with fletching, and I think I did baking because at a certain part of my quest line, my epic quest, I had to hand over like dozens and dozens and dozens of muffins. And I think maybe I just bought them. I don't know. There was like stacks of not. It was like all for faction. This dude really loved muffins, and
Dude, faction grinding. Oh man.
it worked out really well because he liked them a lot, and he let me go on with my quest. But I guess with crafting, I never got involved with it because. I guess I would rather be on the adventure than, fletching an arrow or something along those lines, So, yeah, no, I want it to be there, and I want it to be, for the people that are into crafting, like, I really want it to be a great system, but it's just something I guess I don't get too heavily involved with. Now, if EQ Next has something really intuitive and interactive and engaging, like, then I could see myself, getting involved with it.
Yeah.
Because it's intimidating, right? That's what I always found about it. You knew it was going to take a lot of work, and in EverQuest 1, it seemed like it was very expensive to get good at it. And like Rec was saying, if you were in it to make money, you could just hang that up. It wasn't really like that. You needed not until you got really good at it, and even then, I'm not sure how much the profits were.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of waiting to be sold on it. Like, I would like to craft. I think the idea of it's fun and it's cool, but in most of the games I play, there's no real point to it. You have to go gather for hours just to get stuff, and then you make an item that's really useless, and then you try to sell it. You make nothing for. I mean, it's just there's no point to it. I feel like I really always just felt like there's no point. There's no creativity in it. I can't do anything with it. I can't customize it. I have to gather, and then the stuff I'm making nobody really needs. And even if it's somewhat good, people can get better off raid drops or dungeon drops, whatever it may be. There's no importance to it.
Do you guys want it to have an actual impact on the world? And I guess what I mean by that is, like, say you need wood for any reason, so you got to go into a forest and start chopping away at some trees. Like, typically you think that, and basically it'll just magically respawn in like a few seconds or whatever. But like, I think they had mentioned. I guess leaving a mark on the map before. So, I mean, would y'all be okay if, like, you go to a certain set of trees and start hacking the forest down, and then, oh shit, the forest is
about that.
Down for, I just ruined Kelethin. Like, I don't think I'd ever make it that extreme, of course, but, like, I guess it would at least make you think.
Somebody's going to start up like a Save the
it's pretty
Rainforest campaign
sandboxy,
for
though.
Kelethin.
Now that you say that, I actually think that would be really good to do. I mean, I think that would almost self-regulate how much stuff can be crafted. You can't just, just make 1,000 of this item now.
Just a bunch of pissed off wood
Yeah.
elves waiting.
Slam the auction house with it and make it useless, because if you need wood to make this table for your house or whatever it may be, but you know what I mean, if the tree timer is on like a really long respawn because it actually has to kind of, I guess, in game
it would have to come back
regrow.
though, right?
Yeah, it eventually has to grow back, and maybe it shouldn't take that long, but you know what I mean, if there is a decent respawn timer on trees, and now you're kind of limiting how much can be made and making the items more rare, more expensive, and crafters more needed.
It's always fun to see all these, like, pre-launch and pre-unveil comments about, like, and the tree will grow back over time naturally, like in real life, and then, like, the real in-game representation of that is, like, on a 5-hour cycle, the shit just magically grows again. So I wonder if, maybe that would take it too far to have it, like, have some real lasting impact, and all of a sudden, like, Greater Fate Arc is just like grass. But
I think the barrier. The funny thing is that I didn't do crafting for the reasons I said, because I found it intimidating, expensive, and I didn't want to put the time to learn it. But I did like the fact that the people that took the time and did all that could do it. So maybe I'm never going to use it, but I kind of like the fact that there is a bit of a barrier to get started, because, like you guys were saying, if just anybody could just create awesome stuff, then there would be no point to it.
So, like, I would actually like more along the lines of maybe what Matt was mentioning, where not even necessarily from a raw statistics standpoint, but like maybe you can mold whatever it is you're creating into something cool, like giving it a certain style or a certain look, and that would be the only way that I would ever want. I don't know how you guys feel about a dye system, but I hate dyes because they end up making everybody look the same, because everybody's just gonna pick, well, I'm gonna be the all black rogue or whatever the case may be. But
I think dyes are needed though for crafting.
For crafting, that's what I was gonna say. For crafting, that's fine because then you can start messing with the palette.
You're saying like I shouldn't be able to just walk up and dye my armor.
What
Okay,
games have you dyed your armor in though?
EQ1 has it where you can dye any piece of armor and just.
I would argue that in EQ1 though,
Yeah.
there's hardly any variance in the armor anyway.
I don't think that's
So
that's not an argument. That's
not
a
much
fact.
of an example. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's.
I mean, but think about it.
I don't like though, like seeing people all like
Rainbows.
hot pink. Like, you know, limit the colors a little. Maybe like more of like shades and stuff.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the EQ1 is not. Maybe that is a bad example because like every color in EQ1 that you're dyeing, you're just putting like this weird like highlighter green on your character. So I would imagine in EQ Next, textures and coloring would be a little more refined.
But I think the dye system is good because even say you're making a pair of leather pants, you should be able to pick the main color for it, and then you could kind of pick like a seam color. Yeah, it's just.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm saying my journeyman boots should always look the same regardless. Like I don't think you should be able to apply any kind of dye set to that.
To a magical item that you found.
To any like say named item or whatever. I don't think you should alter the look. I think it starts to get which I'm not even so.
I'll definitely jump on board with that.
Okay.
I agree too.
You should allow the dye, except when you dye your J boots, like they stop working.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you ruined your boots.
Yeah, I told you not to put the fucking dye on it.
Yeah,
you did it anyways.
Pop-up message you get. I mean,
this whole thing though, like crafting, it has to be worth your time. If it just should be complicated. I actually like Matt's idea now, thinking about it, because if it's going to be complicated, you let these guys reach a high level. So, because some of these people that are crafting, they put just almost all their time into it.
Yeah.
So if they reach some level and they can start selling it's almost like they're a blacksmith in the world or something. You see them like that. So they're creating their own things. So maybe they can't just name it.
Who really like that too. They almost want to get in. They almost want to make like an in-game business for themselves. And a lot of people get really into that and not adventuring. And
if it's a sandbox, then you should be able to have alternate paths, not just raw leveling. Or I'm going to be, to be on the top end, you have to be a raider. I will never be that guy because I don't have the time to do that. So I mean, I agree. Like maybe they make it involving and rewarding enough, and maybe I'm the next baker in town.
Yeah,
Sign me up.
They have Pentapod,
That's
so I think if they picked anybody good, it's her, and she'd be the person to do it. So I do have a lot of faith that they're going to come up with a pretty good crafting system.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited to see it. Talking about crafting now, I know earlier we were talking about the trees growing back and all that, and that kind of brought me to another thing I was thinking about with the destructible environments. I remember Smedley kind of mentioning them. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think it's going to happen? How? What's it going to do?
I think it'll be like not as grandiose as maybe some people would like to believe, but I think they will put caps on it, right? Because kind of going back to Keleth, and like I think the idea was he made a very specific reference. I think of like a wizard wiping out some woods or something along those lines. I don't think they're gonna let like a necro walk into Keleth and start murdering trees. Like I don't think that's gonna happen. Like all of a sudden their village is gonna come tumbling down, because that's just I think that would take it one step too far. But I don't know. I mean, what level do you guys want to see it on? I mean, would y'all?
You can't do that. I mean, you really can't. To me, you can't do that in a massive multiplayer game where So you want to mess with the environment and change the way things look. Well, how about the guy that just started playing? They have a creative vision that they're trying to show to people.
Yeah.
When they, with what they designed.
I'm not a big fan of the destructible environments. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the videos of the Elder Scrolls Online. The PvP, like, you're gonna be able to like break walls and stuff in order to get to enemies and get into keeps and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think it looks very good. Like, it looks kind of crappy when the wall falls apart. And
well, I mean,
in very key areas, or is it truly like interactive? Is it destructible in all regards, or do you see like almost like in Zelda, you see a bomb spot on the wall? Like, is it?
That's how it is.
Yeah.
Wasn't it The Force Unleashed that had like an amazing destructible system?
I don't know. That game was garbage. I never played it.
But it won't be like that.
Yeah.
It'd be much more simple.
I mean, the only games not to bring anything else up, but like Battlefield, that's got a destructive system that actually looks cool. But you're talking about Red Faction, but those are such different games. We're talking about an open world, RPG here where everybody is involved, and it's it just doesn't seem like it would work on that scale.
That's where they have to watch it, because like it has to be regulated in certain ways. Otherwise, you just end up in rubble. You know, because like you let everybody go to town, and like somebody's just a whole guild is gonna. I think my idea of like I guess being able to knock things over and destroy things would be like player-built cities, if that's going to be in the game. Like in that regard, then like I don't know, guilds could be at war and potentially taking down their fortress or whatever. Like
I really hope that makes it. Really hope that makes it, man.
You mean like if they had zones that are made out for this stuff?
Well, I'll say zones. I don't think zones proper will be in the game or whatever. But I mean,
I'm using that term.
Yes, right. Okay, so right, yeah. So I think like a guild-built area, like maybe if it's even a player-built city, and then these guilds have these huge, their guild halls or whatever. Maybe an opposing guild come and just like wreck shop if they want. I'm not saying it would be easy to do. I don't think you should just let everybody just rampage on everybody, but like I think maybe that's where it plays.
So do you think there's going to be areas where you talk about crafting? Could someone craft a small castle or city kind of area?
I hope so. That's what I kind of hope for. I mean, I guess we'll see, but I was hoping for player-built cities, honestly. Maybe I'm thinking too far.
If they're saying the world's biggest sandbox, I don't think you can even say sandbox and not have stuff like that. I don't even know which way. Like, how would you not have that?
And I think that is the kind of stuff that could be more ripe for destruction and things. Yeah. I just don't want to see what they worked on all this time completely destroyed by people.
Can't happen. I don't think that can happen.
On that topic, I think you could find a way to regulate something like that in the major cities. So if you're in, like, Calithan, there could be, guards on the ground who might attack you if you're messing with the trees. Or they could figure something out with that. And I also think that just because you're a fire mage of some sort, you shouldn't be able just to cast a fireball and blow all the trees down.
Yeah,
well, there goes the whole
I think it should be a lot more in depth than that. Like, I think if you shoot a fireball and it hits a tree, it should kind of singe it, give it like that type of a look. Like if you really want to burn something down, I think it should take a lot of effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that way you wouldn't just have people just running through and just.
Well, because somebody's going to be an asshole and just start knocking everything over for fun.
No, I mean, so it has to be regulated to an extent.
I mean, could they have meant more in the way where they're talking about big events where something affects the whole world? Could that be what they're talking about? That makes more sense, right?
I would hope, like, almost like sort of, and we mentioned this a little bit last podcast, but like one-time effects that would leave a lasting impression on your server or whatever, as opposed to maybe it went another way for somebody else. Like something we kind of talked about last time. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so torn with this whole thing, but destructible environments, I mean, me personally, I like the idea, and I would like to have, I'd like to have it throughout the whole world and just kind of let you do anything. Like, when I think of sandbox, I don't want to have restrictions. I want everything to be kind of possible.
You want to be flying in the air in a big mount and no restrictions gliding through.
You know my feelings on flying mounts. If there's anything, if I see a dragon in there, for one, this is EverQuest, you should never be able to get on a dragon and fly it.
I hate to tell you,
get on one. I'm gonna be one.
That's what I was about to say. I'm about to I've already made my first dragon. The art confirmed it, so I'm gonna make a dragon.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
All right, this podcast's over, everybody.
Yeah. So,
all
right.
Wouldn't you have a problem? The only thing, like, I always think that destructive stuff sounds so cool when it's you doing it. But how would you feel if you walked in an area and say a guild of people just overran it and just left rubble behind it? You never got a chance to interact with whatever that was.
That's why it's not going to be that.
It'll
extreme.
Regrow. I like that though.
Oh, okay. So you mean it goes back?
Yeah, it'll eventually go back, but the world's ever changing. I mean, if you log in one day, there could be a forest there. You log in the next day, it's gone, and people are building houses. I like that because content never gets old. It's always going to be different depending on who's taking it over. People are fighting for pieces of land. Trees are growing. They're getting burnt down. They're getting chopped down. That sort of thing, just when I think about that and the possibilities, it just...
Do you think that's regulated to certain areas, or do you think that's just wide open, like we can just...
I don't like
realistically, they would probably regulate it to certain areas. Me personally,
I think
I'd
that
like to
could
go
work.
everywhere.
If you put it in certain areas, almost like what Rec was describing with. Now I know you said it didn't look good on the Elder Scrolls, but if it was an area that you knew you could do that kind of stuff in, maybe they don't touch the other parts of the world.
Yeah, I mean, but I just think of it. If there's any way to keep old content fresh, I mean, that's a way to do it. Let people change it.
Just eliminate the old content.
There you go. I don't like Freeport. It's going down.
Yeah.
No, but
what happened to this game? Everything is rubble and destruction and desert.
Yeah, speaking of that, I mean, starting cities. What do you think? I mean,
I think that there will be a balance. Like, I don't think say EQ2 had really harsh restrictions, and I think that was a huge turnoff. But I don't think they'll quite hit all the areas of EQ1. I wish they would, but I can see the arguments against it. I mean, just spreading people too thin. But I think there's some key ones that are certainly going to make it. I think Kinos is going to make it. I think Kelethin will make it, Neriak. I'm trying to think of the other ones. I see the things I would put up for question would be like Ogok. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
But,
Dude, I called Luckland Looseland for many years.
I think we screwed that up a lot too.
Halos probably wouldn't make it. I mean, if they were going that route, but
see, I would almost argue for that because like. I don't know. Like, where are you going to start the barbarians? Unless, like, Freeport's going to be in there. But here's a question I actually had. Do you think Freeport will be in there as a starting city as it has been in the past? Or I would almost like to see that as an area maybe that people eventually make their way to where, like, massive amounts of bartering and trading is, you know, I guess a big culmination of good and evil. And anyway, go ahead. So, y'all think that'll be, or do you want to?
It's the most isolated of the EverQuest. You know, like all these people are coming together. You're saying, and that's how it was. So
yeah. Well, you could start. You could technically in EQ1, you could start there. In EQ2, of course, you could too. But I don't mind that if it's not necessarily a starting city, but just like the gathering point and CP, like shady. There's going to be seedy areas. There's going to be good areas and mixed races and everything else. So
yeah. See, I don't mind if it's a starting area. You know, I don't think that's really.
But maybe it could be both, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's how it
was
was.
EQ away. I mean, you could start there, but at the same time, it was the central hub to where everybody could meet because everybody could kind of get in. And I really do hope they follow that same path of Freeport. I loved Freeport in all the games, so I think that's one city they really need to nail. I think that and Kelethin are probably, in my opinion, the two most important ones that really need to make it, with Neriak in third.
I like.
So, I guess their design strategy with the EQ2 is just they thought, I guess, that a lot of the cities were unused. Is that how they felt? Because that's probably why I would picture they didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, like, logically, if you say, you know, we're going to have just 2 starting areas, you know what I mean, or 2 or 3, and it helps everybody. It logically makes a lot of sense. But I don't want it to make sense. I don't like that, personally.
I don't like it either.
I want every race to start where their race starts, because I just think that should how. I mean, if it's, I don't know. I just think that's how it should work. And I mean, if there is the worry that it's going to be like a dead zone or a dead area, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you could even talk about or think about using that. Like, I don't know if any of you's ever seen what World of Warcraft did with that crossed realm zoning, to where, like, you know what I mean. You could be in a zone, but you could see players from other servers. It's kind of hard to explain, but
oh, okay, I got you.
Do you know what I mean? So when I walk into here, it's kind of like seamless phasing. You don't even realize it, but you walk into this zone, and now there's this magical barrier, but because it's normally like a dead zone.
Right.
But now, if 5 different servers are sharing that zone, and there's only 5 from each, now there's 25 players in there, and now it doesn't seem so dead. So if they can incorporate that sort of technology, I think that's a great way to get every city in as a starting city and keep them populated. I'm a genius.
It's like the opposite of Star Wars: The Old Republic, where every zone feels dead regardless, because they say, 5 people are in the zone, done, another instance.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about instances. I'll just get off and just start pushing things.
Greg, did you have a thought on it?
How about all the races have their starting city, but they do fewer races? And this is going back to the whole, like, what we saw on the Gabor artwork.
I don't like the direction that they're going in right now.
Get out, Rick.
I just wanted to say something different.
Well, I mean,
no, okay. I don't think that they need. I think they'll end up like lumping a couple into. Like, I would be surprised to see Grob and Neriak, or maybe they throw the trolls in Neriak, because that was was it just for?
Yes.
You had to be a certain combination of troll maybe to start there, but I know that you could be there. I think they maybe lump a few races in, but I don't want to see. I don't want to see like 20 or 30 races, but I'm thinking, like, I still want all the major ones in there. You know, I still argue that art means nothing as far as like final races, just because, I mean, there's just too many key ones missing there. So
I think a couple of combinations work, like you're saying. Like, are you talking like ogres, trolls?
Yeah. Okay. What about Riverville? Like, I think. I keep bringing this up, but the only reason why I keep talking about The Hobbit is because it's like a pop culture thing now. Like, it's huge, and I think like that has a lot of appeal for a lot of people. So like, I think that if you don't have Riverville, which is very much like the Shire, I think like a lot of people, and actually it seems like a few of the SOE people halfling fan, so there's no freaking way that isn't making it. So I'd really like to see Rivervale.
Yeah, I mean, I just think when you get into this conversation, you get to the point to where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
And then if you're only cutting 1 or 2 races, what's the point of even doing it?
Where did the Karen? Where the hell do they start? Like, do people
In,
care about Karen? See, I
Luckland,
don't-
right?
No, that's Vashir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, Karen or the other cat.
Right.
There was
dudes.
that Kara Island.
Yeah.
Yes,
We'll
there
just start
was.
them we'll start them on that island. Just ship them all away.
That was one of the deadest zones I can ever remember. I used to just go and talk to the cats, and they wouldn't hardly talk back to you.
That's
Yeah,
good. They're cats, dude. They don't care.
I mean, there was literally I never saw anyone over in that area.
But back to starting cities, like I really don't think for starting cities, I don't think there's any way you could kind of pick and choose which ones to have and not have without offending a lot of people.
You know which one that I wish would be in there, but I can accept that it won't, is Surefall Glade. Like, that's always kind of unique and special for me because
God, I almost forgot about that till you just mentioned it.
yeah, it was like the weird thing where like I think you had to pick. It was like not too hard to get to the right combination, but it was only certain people could start there. And I know my half elf ranger is there.
Yeah, I had, I think, a half-elf druid as my first character, and that's basically where I started. And same thing, I love Surefall.
Yeah,
So
it's very
basically,
small,
you're never
but
going to
cool.
make everybody happy.
Yeah, but I'm okay with not being happy. I'm never happy anyway, so I'm okay with cutting a few.
Like, were the ogre and troll cities ever really popular? Because I don't remember anybody ever really talking about them.
I mean, I don't think they were super popular, but at the same time, I still think you're going to have them people that love those troll cities. And if you don't put it in there, I mean, they're going to be really bitter.
Some things are going to be cut. Like I would say that like definitely they're not going to have every starting city out the gate. No way in hell. So I think there are certain ones like
I think you have to do some combining.
Yeah,
You do.
you're going to have to accept that some people are going to be pissed off, and eventually you may be past it. So that kind of brought up something. Do you guys think that XR will be in here from launch? Do I think that's going to happen? I got a point here. I just want this.
I do, because they seem very popular from when I had played both EQ 1 and 2, but I would expect that they would be a part of a Freeport or something like that, not their own.
They
so
hate everybody, and everybody hates them basically. So
but could that change according to by now?
Well, of course, this is like its own world at that, so they could adapt the lore in whatever way they want.
I see a scenario where they're definitely there at the start, because they were there at the start of EQ2 and they were always seemed pretty popular to me.
Yeah.
But I think they'll be involved with whichever city has kind of a neutral standing,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know if
They
what
were
I
in that
think on
early
this one.
concept art. So I'm saying they're in
Is that
from
just
the start.
did you think they were? Was that just me thinking they're popular? Because I always saw a lot of them.
I think of like the ugly races or whatever that they always seem to be pretty popular, and I feel like that they are one of those races that like that's like of course you got XR, like it's EQ, of course there's going to be XR. I know they came in.
Agree.
I mean they've been there for so many years at this point. Like first expansion of EverQuest, they arrived and they've sort of been like they've been huge and. I'm not a lore junkie, but I know they are a huge part of it, and I've always found, like, Kunark is fascinating to me. I've always loved Kunark. I don't know if Kunark will be in there at launch, and that's what I was wondering. So if we're going to have XR in there, they would be one of the shared city people, you think, like Freeport or something?
That's what I think, but I'd be okay with that. I'd rather see them there like that.
That was my chair, guys.
Well, okay, if we're talking about Kunark, do you guys think Velius will be in there?
No, I don't think that'll be their launch, no. I think that'll be a post-launch thing.
Yeah, I think you have to save something for down the line. I mean, you don't want to, put all your cards on the table right away.
I think I would almost say that Kunark, I would expect some of it to be in there because I think that's a good way to draw in some of the classic EQ players. I think Kunark means a lot to the old school crowd, and I think that's a good hey guys, we got Kunark. All right, I'm in. Like I know that's a big draw for me. Like I love.
But you don't mean as a starting point, right?
No, I'm just saying to have it. I mean, I guess XR potentially in like Field of Bone area, but yeah, I mean, no, not necessarily in that regard. I'm just saying that would be a huge draw to get some of the classic players in.
Like if they wanted to do it that way, I would, say they don't want to design the XR's own starting city. Maybe Kunark is more of a mid to upper level place you just go, but that allows them to make it without having to create another city that maybe wouldn't be used as much.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it didn't seem like their city was ever in much use. People would, even immediately travel across back to Freeport, it seemed like, and try to earn up.
I loved Capitalist, actually. I thought it was a really good city. It was
so sprawled out,
I
though.
remember
But
really? Well, it was a little confusing because they had the water running in between it. But the funniest thing I remember is getting the shit kicked out of me by like those like frog-lock prisoners, because I was like one of the first characters I ever picked. Because I was like, oh, lizard guy, yeah, I'll pick him. And they had those like frog-lock prisoners, and like I don't know, I just didn't understand EverQuest at that time because it was very, very early on. I just kept dying. I was like, fuck this, I'm playing something else.
So how about a frog-lock starting city?
Yeah.
Well, they had Grob, right?
I want to see the frog locks just go away altogether.
It's kind of stupid,
man, no
isn't
way.
it?
I don't mind the frog locks.
I think they're
Grob.
okay as an enemy, but don't they look silly when they look very silly.
I think it's a terrible race.
I like them. I don't know.
It's
My
not
I can
one
see.
change.
I like them in the game as a something to fight, but they do look a bit silly to me when they're all dressed up in their armor.
I like them. I think they're different, and every once in a while, I know, like me personally, I get bored of like the same old with all the races that kind of stand straight up, and the frog is like almost like a nice, like it's a change. It's a nice change sometimes, and
I'm actually one of the people that's like the more races the better. I'm usually okay with that as long as they're designed well enough. You don't want to see it go completely overboard, but
yeah,
they would not like they to me wouldn't be high on the list of you have to have these at the launch.
They were for EQ2. They were actually like a unlock or whatever, part of an unlock. I don't know if you guys remember how that worked, but they were announced from launch, I believe. But like there was some key thing you had to do, and like the server would essentially unlock them as a playable race, which was kind of weird. And I always wondered if that was just them being like, oh, they're not really ready yet, guys. But I don't mind.
It takes a long time to work on that shape of that spine.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. They could blow out the design and kind of start
the frogs. It doesn't
I want them to have the old like square bodies they had from the old like Guck days. Remember the frog look before?
I don't think those are actually frog locks. I think they're Gucktons.
Oh,
But they're way
whatever.
They're frog.
They all croak alike.
One frog is all the same.
Yeah.
I
I
like
mean to
them.
sound racist.
Frogs. So okay, we're all talking about what we want to see. Like, what do you think they're actually going to do with these cities?
I want to see them all starting cities. I don't think it's going to happen. That's just, I guess, the harsh reality that I think is going to happen. I think they're going to have more than two, but I think it is going to be limited. I think they are going to combine some. I think Freeport, Kinos, maybe
More than 2, less than 7. Bam.
Yeah.
Bam.
I think we all pretty much.
Both
I think we're all beating around the fact that we probably feel the same way that they're going to have. They're not surely not going to do 2 again because I feel like almost no one liked that.
What about Philweed? Is that going to make it? I wanted to make it.
I don't know. See,
I was actually in game the other day looking at Felwith, like just imagining, like, dude, what could this look like in EQ next if they really did this?
Like, yeah, because did you ever go to an EQ2? Like, I hated the fact that they annihilated every city in an EQ2. Like,
it was
that
stupid.
lore was such it was crippling to the starting cities. Like, let's destroy every city. Rivervale was in ruins, and Felweed was like all the high elves there are just dicks to you and want to kill you.
It's like they forgot that from a lore standpoint, I could see how they were trying to do that to tell this cool story to the world, but when you get down to the actual playing of it, I think pretty much everybody liked the fact that there were a large variety of starting places. It made starting a new character fun. When you have 2 cities and it almost doesn't matter sometimes. You don't even care about making another character because you're going to run through the same starting quest that you've already done, or the same area.
Like in this case, I really hope that they do something to actually make those cities relevant beyond like your first hours of the game. Like I know right now, and you were just saying you were in Felweed or whatever, and you were probably just doing it as some kind of like nostalgia trip, right? Like just going there to look at it. I know that's why I ever go back there because I don't really have a good purpose. But I wish there was some way to keep those cities relevant in some capacity. Like that I'm not just going there just to go like look at it and remember those first starting hours. God, there's a real reason for me to get there.
And sadly, that was the case for almost all the cities. Neriac looked so cool in EverQuest 1, but it was almost unused once you got out of the starting area. Everybody left.
I mean, what could you do to prevent that?
Maybe some kind of returning thing as you get higher level. They have to make it relevant past the first few levels, right?
I keep thinking about this, and how do you make it relevant?
I'm not supposed to answer these questions. I'm supposed to ask them. Like, it's a good question to ask. I'm not saying I'm being reasonable here.
Could you tie it into crafting? I mean, is there certain thing? you brought up crafting. Could there be special things that you could only get from that city, or only work with NPCs that were in that city that dark elves have their own type of thing that if you're not
that's
a
a great idea.
dark elf crafter, maybe you couldn't do it. There could be some reason to get you back there.
That's actually, I mean, if you tie, like, if crafting goes, to be like a very important aspect of the game, and then you have each racial city having, different materials that only they sell, and even maybe different forges or whatever. Maybe you need like a
you couldn't make this item without being there.
Maybe there could be stuff in Neriac, since it's underground, that can only be mined there.
Yeah.
Rare
Okay.
materials.
Yeah. So there are ways to do it.
then.
They just haven't done it yet.
No, that's actually, I never even thought of that. That is a good way. I mean, if you do kind of like city-only things, whatever it be, maybe materials, and you can kind of branch off from there and go crazy with it. But that's a good way to do it. But
I think the only time they ever made it relevant in EQ1 was like during the epics. I believe you had to go back to. Actually, I know you had to go back to your starting city. So ideally they would do something more than just like once every however many years you have to go back there. I don't have like the magical answer. Like crafting is certainly one avenue to go down, but like.
And without going too far with the vile Q word, I mean, what about quest later as you go? And I'm not talking about quest hubs. I'm saying that, I mean, I don't know how you guys totally feel about this. Like, it's not that I hate quest. I just hate the constant questing.
Question mark quest?
The quest, yes, that kind of thing. So
quest hub.
They belong in these games to me. It's just in limited aspects. So
yeah.
Maybe I return after I'm level 25 through 30, and there's someone else there for me to work, because how they usually have like guild halls pertaining to whatever class you were or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe it's relevant again, because that's always the issue. It seems like you move out of there and there's almost nothing for you to ever go back for. The only reason you ever return is, like Justin was saying, I'll go back just to have a look at the city and be nostalgic about it. That was about it.
So I mean, maybe they could incorporate, like a racial quest line that kind of keeps bringing you back every couple levels to further it on.
Racial and maybe class based, because maybe you're a gnome and you can't enter an Ixar city, but you're an Ixar rogue, and there's that pertains to you in that guild in that city. So it's only a quest you would do as that class race combo.
All right, so here's a question now that we're kind of on this topic. I think I'm going to assume that there's going to be guild halls in this game. We'll just say, for this argument's sake, there's guild halls. How do you make people want to go back to the major cities without making major cities like the hubs where everybody sits and guild halls vacant, and vice versa? How do you prevent like guild halls from having everything? Kind of in EverQuest 2, I noticed like towards like the last, every time I get on, I could sit in the guild hall and do everything, so I'm never anywhere else but the guild hall.
Yeah, I think they kind of went overboard with that, like having access to every corner of the map just by the numerous, like, you got the druid portal, the wizard portal, and I don't think you should be able to have that in your guild hall. Like I want guild halls to be more about like prestige and just showing off what your accomplishments have done, not like the instance you pop into to access, like I said, every corner of the map. So. I don't know how you feel about it. But.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's like a really tricky thing to balance, and God bless them on that, because I have no idea how they're going to do it, honestly. I think every game struggles with that to an extent. Either the cities are too important and the people don't leave them, or the guild halls are too
important.
So
I'm unfamiliar a little bit of what you're talking about. You could do what all from the guild hall? Just about everything, you're saying?
You could craft everything from there. You could.
Yeah, they did that too. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if they ever added. Can you get into battlegrounds from there now too?
I don't know.
So this is a problem that to me started with the planes of power and all that. You got to be careful about how much. If you make everything so convenient, you're just going to sit in one spot and do everything. And I don't think that it totally takes me out of the world. Yeah, but you end up abusing it because it's there.
Well, because like the argument always is, well, you don't have to use it, but essentially whenever you give everybody the tools and everybody kind of funnels down that path, like you feel like you're not, it benefits you to use it. Like I'm not saying, I don't know. Whenever the tools are there, of course you're going to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's another thing I did want to talk about, though. This is kind of a little bit of a different game that we're going to talk about, but PlanetSide 2 and the whole implant thing that kind of just happened.
Yeah.
I know that was a really.
I read you guys.
Okay, so that's like part of the fear with free to play in general, because like I think this is going to be a free to play game, and I know they came out making a lot of promises, especially with say PlanetSide 2, saying this will never be like a pay to win, which is essentially I can buy perks that are going to make me better than you. It's more about, I guess, buying aesthetic pieces are not really going to change anything fundamentally. You'll just get this cool looking gun. But there's actually a quote from his name is Matthew Higbee, right? Essentially saying they would never do anything that would give somebody an edge for spending money on their store. But then they did this implant system, and Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically it gave them certain perks, correct? Like you put a couple bucks in the machine, and essentially you get like for say 2 or 3 hours you get better boost, or I'm saying boost. You are better. You get stat boost basically. And,
yeah, from what I understand, it was kind of purchasable buffs. I never seen them.
I don't think it's been in game because I've been playing a lot of PlanetSide 2 lately. I've never seen it.
No. It was intended to be in game, and it got basically they canceled it at the last second. From what I could tell, a community backlash. Correct.
Right.
It was supposed.
It's a terrible idea.
Exactly. It is a terrible idea.
It's horrible. Don't do it, Sony. If you do,
and, it's what's funny about these companies. They always try this stuff, and it's like they don't realize that their audience. Some of them are so hardcore. They're gonna find this. They're gonna find it every time.
Dude, and I was saying off of the show earlier, if you put pay-to-win stuff in EQ Next, you would turn this game that is like the game I'm looking forward to more than any other game for like. Probably the next decade at least, and you're just going to ruin it for me and make me not want to play it.
Well, see, and I don't think out the gate they would do anything like that, but I think the fear is that what the quote was in the beginning was that would never happen, and then a year down the line, and maybe it's for, I would have to argue maybe it's not financial reasons, like maybe it's not pulling as much money now as it was in the beginning, so they're trying to think of anything they can do to kind of boost the economy, and by putting that on, they for as much as some people hate it, people would buy shit like that.
Oh yeah, they would.
And but it's directly contradicting what they said PlanetSide 2 would never be. So I think the fear is with EQ Next being a free-to-play game, and it's going to have the cash store in it, that they can come out saying like, we will never do this, like this won't happen, and then a year down the line, maybe subscribers or numbers are going down, and they're trying to think of ways to get more money flowing, and they introduce something along these lines, and that's something I hope never happens, but obviously...
Well, at least they got a little bit out of the controversy out of the way now, right?
They did it, and they canceled it, and it was all set. In fact, it was being tested, right? I believe it was all... There's videos on YouTube you can see of the system itself. Like, I mean, they kind of give you a run-through of how it all works, and it never made it live, so... But what's to say it won't in the future, and that's what's scary.
It might have been something from beta. I mean... I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to
No, this was something that was truly about to be in the game. Like, this is something, if you hit up massively, like they have articles on it right now, it's just something they were about to patch in, I believe, the newest game update, and they just backed out of it.
Here's the way I think of it. Like, I think, and I hate to say this, but I think if it was up to them, it would have been put in. And I think the only reason they stopped is because everybody kind of rallied and said, no, we don't want this. But now... who's to say they're not going to keep trying to sneak them in there, and then once they kind of do sneak one past everybody and it gets in there, now it's just going to snowball.
Dude, I mean,
and it scares me.
I don't think it's going to happen in EQ Next because it seems so obvious to me that it's such a bad idea.
What about XP?
They have to feel that too. Like, these guys got to play their own games. Like,
sometimes though, like the financial element may outweigh the fact they know they're going to piss certain people off.
There's a lot of people who don't want to really, who could care less about how they look, but if you throw an XP pot in there or a little self buff or self res, I mean, EverQuest 2 has self reses, XP pots.
I wouldn't be surprised if EQ Next launched with XP.
It will launch with it.
See, now I
don't even care.
So how do you guys want them to make money? Like, if you're all going on this basis that it's free to play, and I agree, like, what are you okay with? I guess
I'm okay with XP pods, honestly, but like, let's see how that leveling system is even done in EQ Next before we go down that path. But like, typically I would say I'm all for housing items, like decorative items and things, and I do think housing will be a big part of EverQuest Next. I'm like fluff items. That's what I like. If you're gonna charge for random.
But is there enough money in that?
I don't know. I mean, especially for a massive MMO, I don't.
Because
know.
Do you care about that stuff a lot?
I do.
You do.
I know.
Okay. What about like? Do you think
Tapes.
most people do?
Okay, here you know where a large part of their funding will come from is the player studio, because that's the whole point of all this, is giving players the ability to make a little money themselves. But of course, Sony takes a cut, so it's going to be they'll give their players these development tools, and they'll craft like cloaks or design rather, not craft, but like really with actually they'll program and create swords and cloaks and armor, and they'll be able to sell it, and there'll be things along those lines. What I don't want to see is like high. Say I can pay $10 for this one sword, and that's also a high-end raid drop, just like a palette swap. That's the type of stuff that I don't want to see. So I don't know though.
That's the scary part. I can't even tell you what I would be okay with. I don't even know right now.
Yeah.
Back to the XP pots real quick. I think if they are in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of don't really normally have a big problem with them, but I do like when the game first comes out, I don't think they should be automatically there. I think you need to wait a couple weeks. Let the people who are hardcore get their world first and their server first. Let people earn that the right way, and then put them in. And I think anytime there's a level increase, they should be stopped for 1 to 2 weeks until people, or even that, say if server first comes, then unlock them. But I think those things mean a lot to some people, and I don't want to see them ruined by some people, buying the best XP pots and just flying through things.
I don't think it'll happen, because when a new expansion launches, that's probably a great time for people buying XP pots.
Yes.
I understand the financial aspect, right? But I don't know.
I think they had them out the gate.
I'm not saying I agree with it. Like, I think your idea is cool. Like, take them away for a while. But
once it's in there, it's in there. Like, they're
but
not
here's the
say
thing:
off.
this could be a very short-term, great way to sell things. But long-term, if you keep nickel and diming in these little ways that people don't really like, that kind of kill the feel, you're going to end up destroying your game long-term. A lot of people are going to, those little things start to weigh on you, and
it just depends because like, what's that percentage versus the percentage that are okay with buying them? Like, and I think like it looks like XP pots are a good way for them to make quick money, like just based on EQ1.
I know in EverQuest 2 they actually put a lot of polls in, and I think that is a really good idea. They send you mail.
Well, who voted to put like fast travel as a station?
Oh my God, I don't know. I don't even.
They literally charge you like, what is it, 20 cents to travel around.
Can I just say, like, the whole free to play thing? It's like it's everywhere. It is all over the place. It's one of the only, seems like, viable ways to go with a lot of these games at this point. But I still feel like this is trying to explain internet and computers to my grandpa. Like, I don't know what I want. I'm scared of it all. I understand is, let me pay you $10 to $15 and I just play the game, because it always feels like when you sell little individual things, in the back of my head I'm going, but I'm getting ripped off somehow. That's all I think about.
I wouldn't, and they will have the sub model, right? Like, I think that's obvious. So
yeah, for sure.
Free to play your way.
Yeah, something.
So
like
then that is almost definitely how I would probably end up.
Okay, let me just say, they will have
I don't
the
know
sub
if that's
model.
probably just me.
The sub model doesn't make the little SC icon go away. So technically, you're paying the sub, and maybe you want to pay some extra money too for an XP play. So it's like not like you will get benefits from being a subscriber. But of course, like if I could have like a magic wand and make it go back to the old days of just $15 a month, and I get no station store, I would do that. But that's just not being realistic.
I want to see them go this way because I think that's how it'll be successful for them. I just don't know what I personally find. I don't know what I accept because I just can't picture it.
Thankfully, we don't have to strike that balance. That's on them. No pressure.
Yeah.
Quit your game in a month if it sucks. No.
So how does PlanetSide 2 handle? I mean, this is their game as well, right?
Yeah, they're pretty fair with it, I feel like. Yeah, this is the biggest controversial thing. The thing that they almost implemented would have been the worst thing they would have done, because I think by and large it's not bad. But the only thing is, PlanetSide 2 is a shooter, and this is like an RPG. So like things like buying this armor, this headpiece that looks pretty cool, or this body armor that looks cool. Like in my idea, like my head, that's okay in PlanetSide 2. In EverQuest, like your armor sort of defines you in a lot of ways. So like I don't want to just buy the coolest looking armor on a shop. So I think they did it good with PlanetSide 2, but let's see how they do with DQ next, I suppose.
Right.
It's
a tough one.
I'm gonna actually topic jump real quick.
Okay.
I remember me and you, Justin, we talked before the podcast that you actually wanted to talk about boats again.
Mm-hmm.
What did you have in mind with that?
It was more, and we could have tied that in to crafting, but like I do
Yeah.
like that. Like it's kind of this weird balance of like how do you want boat travel to be? Because I do want boat travel in the game. I also don't necessarily want to be waiting at a dock for like an hour and then maybe either miss it because I went away from the computer for a minute or whatever the case may be. So my idea would be to let the community almost like regulate boat travel in a way, you know, and like that could even be a way for somebody to make money, like they create or craft their boat or buy a boat, or maybe a crafter sells it to a person who buys a boat who then uses that boat to bring like you know basically ferry people over to an island, you know, charging so many platinum per seat, you know. So like I hope that actually becomes a thing. I hope people can actually you can go to a set of docks and you'll see people, you know, I guess offering rides to an island or something along those lines. Like I don't know how you guys envision boat travel to be in this game, but I hope it is something like maybe controlled by the community and maybe a viable way to make some solid money for certain people.
I'll say this. I think I brought up Darkfall in the last podcast.
Yeah.
But I'll just bring it up real quick. They have the boat system, but it's really glitchy. It looks pretty bad. It's fun, it's great, but it's so glitchy. And
It's
I don't
similar to what
know-
he's describing. You're saying?
Yeah, it's I don't know. They could probably do better because they're, you know, a more legit company, but I don't know.
So is that what it is though? Like they have it to where people can, I guess, take a boat ride and pay somebody money for it? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah. See.
So
that's
the
what I
idea
think-
sounds cool. You just got to be able to execute it.
Yeah, like, but I was thinking less in terms of, because I don't know, like, getting from continent to continent. Like, I don't know. I think it sounds cool in theory for certain people to say, yeah, I would love to take like a 4-hour boat trip to go to this other continent. I don't have that kind of time. You know?
No,
So like,
no.
I'm thinking more like maybe I'm at, you know, at the Oasis and there's, you know, of course the dock and maybe now there's a few docks or whatever the case may be. And there's an island off in the distance and I could swim there, but it's going to take me for freaking ever to get there. You know, there's no actual boating system like that goes there, but because you got this community with either they bought their own boat or crafted their own boat, whatever the case may be, maybe they make money by bringing people across that you know that part of the sea to get to the island. You know, I don't know. Maybe it seems like a good idea. So
I like it, but I think it kind of depends on what Matt was saying. Is that you can't have a heavy flying system with flying mounts because then it would just kill all the commerce there.
I don't. You know what? I'm convinced that I don't want flying mounts either. Honestly.
I think a lot of people like flying mounts, and I think when you're actually on them flying around, it is cool. It is fun, but I think realistically, the damage it does to the world and
That's
ground
actually
mounts
not-
and boats and all the other systems, I just
That's
think
true enough. Like, yeah, because you're right. You know what? If you have like a Griffin, you can just fly that fucker over. You know, like what that would not. I don't know. So you're killing the boating system and everything. So
Yeah, if you're going to put flying mounts in, you shouldn't even really invest too much time in the boats or anything else because
No.
they're going to be useless.
yeah, I guess
And
agree.
I
hate
think that's a
flying
shame to
mounts,
do
too.
that. Just flying mounts are,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the enemy.
Yeah.
And
Probably.
boats were like an intrinsic.
Sell me
like,
on this no flying mount thing.
are you
I'm
still
cool.
Did you say
Rick,
I'm starting to sell
are
you
you
on it?
like the flying mounts or no?
I think they're fun. I've liked them in previous games, but I'm starting to see where Matt's coming from.
Well, yeah, because you don't really consider how many things it damages in the end. You know, how many things, like, yeah, why would you take a boat if you could just, like, hover over, you know, the sea?
Right.
Like, there's no reason for it. So, like, if at the point that it's stripping away all these other things that, you know, if everybody has a flying mount and it's on the, you know, maybe you make it for high-end people, but you know something like that would also end up on the station store, so all these people are buying it.
Dude,
Who's gonna be using it?
you guys know EverQuest 1, actually, I would just remember this. They
It does
do
have flying
actually
mounts,
have
yeah, I know. But they're like
boats that
hover
you can
mount.
control.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say
wait.
you can't
Wait,
fly very high in
boats?
EverQuest. Can you?
No, they have little boats, like little canoes you
Really?
can get in and control in EQ1, yeah.
That is right, but you can't go
Oh,
real far in
wait.
them, right?
Really?
And
Was there
one of my
was there one of the
best memories-
specs? Was there
What?
a spec? Was there one at the spec island or no? Am I making that up?
There was,
He-
yeah.
In Oasis, he's talking about.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
You're
I don't
jogging
know.
a memory, but it was very clunky, right? It was not really full featured or anything. I don't.
There was
think.
one in the zone that had the like the Cyclops and the goblins and stuff. All those.
I know what you're
islands.
talking about, but I forgot the name. It was like between stuff, between the two continents, right?
Between the
I think you
islands
got
and
there from
things.
Oasis, maybe, or from
Right.
Freepool. I'm not sure.
So you say no flying.
There's
We're
so much
talking no
potential
flying
with
mounts.
those.
Or
There
you're
really
saying you want them gone completely, as in you don't want the stationary post like where you can
Me?
just shortcutting everything, right?
If it was up to me, there wouldn't be a
I'm talking
flying
about
mount
Mad,
in
yeah.
the game.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like player-controlled flying mounts, I don't think should ever make it. If you want to put in like a very, very, very light, like kind of like NPC Griffin system, you can kind of get on them and fly from Freeport to Kinos. There might be a way to work that in, but like an actual like I have my own flying mount and I fly wherever I want. I think that's a terrible idea.
Yes, I agree. And actually, I don't even know if I'd want to see the other thing. I'm thinking if you're going to do it at all, make it so limited. Like I don't know if you were to say what were some of the more advanced zones that were say mountains like in EverQuest, and maybe you made it all the way through in some kind of raid, and you don't want to have to fight your whole way back. Like maybe there's some kind of thing you could ride back to the bottom. I don't know, something very limited. But
Yeah,
don't
that's what I'm saying,
interfere with
Like
all the
Lord of the
travel.
Rings style, like once you finally get the ring to the mountain, then the evil.
Yeah,
Those come and
you've already made the journey in the
Yeah.
Like, where the hell were y'all like 5 hours ago?
Because I can tell you,
rip my
like
throat out.
travel and boat travel, it was like
Integral
part of the world for EverQuest
Yeah.
for me. It was I've talked to Justin about this before, but I'll never forget like in Freeport talking to people and finding out where the boat was for the first time and taking that boat across to Butcher Block. I was like scared shitless of everything I was going to run into.
Oh, shoot, is the boat going in the right direction? I don't really know. Where am I
Yeah,
going?
and I was scared to fall
Ocean
off.
of Tears. Oh, fuck.
Exactly. It was terrifying. But when I got there, it was like I landed. It was almost like you feel like you're landing on this whole new world, and it was so cool to get off the boat and get to roam around in this new area. And I'm not saying they have to have it so hardcore that if I fell off that I should be able to fall off the boat into the middle of the ocean
swam
and
for
lose my
hours in the
armor.
Ocean of Tears. Ow.
But the travel, just the travel and stuff, and they need to do better. Like I've mentioned this before, but the boats in EverQuest, they used to run on like specific timers, and if you weren't there, they were gone so quick. But so just maybe make it more intuitive. But I thought boat travel was really cool, and I actually liked this idea, even the player created ones.
Yeah.
But but once again, just like the crafting, not anybody should be able, in my opinion, should be able to just have a boat that they take people on. Like this should be a prestigious thing that you work to be able to get.
Expensive to get and hard as hell to make, basically.
I think it could be one of those things to where you can have like a deep system, just kind of like a ground mount, to where with a boat you can start off with a super basic boat that's kind of slow, very limited. Maybe like you and a friend can go on there. You could have it like that, and then I think you should be able to kind of build better boats and upgrade your boat, and then you can get like this huge pirate ship eventually long term, that your whole guild.
So you could make your own little boat, but maybe it's really slow and it's not very functional.
Yeah, I think ground mounts and boats, I think they should have almost their own systems. They should be in-depth systems to where you start off at the bottom and you kind of work your way up. They should almost, you know what I mean?
But like if you were this master shipsman who created this, like the kind of boats you would see going in EverQuest 1, you should be able to make money off these because you've worked so hard to be this ship master.
I think so too. Yeah, like have so many seats available and everybody can pay so much platinum per seat. Basically, we're leaving in like 15 minutes, guys. Get on, or I'm leaving.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome to bring somebody out in the middle of the ocean and just like know where a serpent lay and just like have him come up and eat the whole boat.
Yeah. Or you just stop the boat in the middle of the ocean and say you pay up more. You're never getting off this boat.
Up. You would only have one run, but it would be worth it.
Yeah, I know, right? You're the notorious pirate. Everybody would already know about you.
I'm picturing like transporting resources and stuff. Like, Smedley said he wanted this to be like
Onion Knight.
Like transporting resources and having to protect them and like worrying that someone could jump out and try to rob you on the way.
That'd be awesome.
Dude, it makes me kind of want there to be like open world PvP in this game.
I think there will be if you want it. I don't know if that's going to be like, maybe they'll have a PvP and PvP server.
Dude, check this out. What about if it's open world PvP, but instead of just doing good and evil, you go by like, if an NPC faction would attack you, that means somebody of that same race could attack you. But if you like fix your faction with that race, they can't attack you. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Like your faction is based on what that actual faction.
Like in EQ1, if you run up to a racist city and they attack you, that means those players could attack you.
Yeah.
See, but I still don't like that because if I'm in a group with somebody and say I'm a good human, he's a good human, and he's just being a total, tool, I don't want some magical barrier that's stopping me from, putting him down.
Matt, you are very hardcore on the PvP. I will say this: I'm the oft-called Care Bear. Like I'm the PvE guy. Like I want to frolic around. If I want to look at like stand on the hilltops of some zone. I want to be free of somebody like sticking a dagger in my back. And maybe I'm just a weenie. I don't know.
No, I mean it just depends on your style, I guess, because
Yeah.
me and you both came up playing more PvE style. So, but why not just separate this by servers, right? Do you have to have all?
Well,
Does
it's
everything
typically
have to be
like
the
what?
same?
Yeah, no. There's typically like a free-for-all server, which I think is what Matt wants, right?
Yeah, I want it just because I actually don't even really enjoy going around ganking people so much, but I just really think that people's reputation should matter, and if they want
Right.
to act a certain way, there should be an instant consequence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also think, death being meaningful and harsh kind of will tie into that. If you're being a complete tool to your group members and you're doing something, you know what I mean? They can just jump you, and that's it. And you kind of scream on your own, and that's the way it should be, though. Because I think when you have a system like that, you see less people being rude and ignorant because they know if I start acting like an idiot, that's it for me. You know what I mean? They're not going to group me anymore, A, and B, they're probably going to beat me up and take my shoes.
All right, check this out.
All right, maybe I'm in.
Back to the faction idea I mentioned. So, say you're a human and another human comes up and stabs you. Just
But he
kills
couldn't,
you,
right?
stabs you in the back. They take a faction hit for their own race, and all of a sudden their own
That's
race
cool.
hits them.
That's
So-
cool. I could buy into that 100%.
Yeah, that would be cool. So it's like free-for-all, but there's
Plus, the reputation is gonna go to shit.
So
No,
what he's saying sounds pretty awesome, but I still we're still talking separation of So you got to have all these things available, like maybe just open. But yours sounds like an interesting maybe mix of it's not just free for all. Everybody can kill each other.
But it is though, right? It is free-for-all, but
But not if you're
Somewhat.
not if you're a good race and your faction's cool with them, right? That's what you're saying.
No, he's saying that you could attack him. You would take a faction hit for it.
Ooh,
It's
okay.
just a little bit more of a consequence.
I think I was saying one thing before, and now I'm saying something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
you throw
throwing
out a
out just
different idea
random
now, but
ideas.
no, I think that's actually a really good idea because that ties factions. I don't know. I like that.
See,
that,
what
that
we
adds
were
another
actually
layer,
like you
layer to it.
said, we were on a PvE server, right? Now, I believe this might be Michael's story here, but didn't you have either you were the dark elf in a group of mixed races or something like that? Didn't you have some snobby dark elf role players come up to you just like snorting at the fact that you were grouped with a bunch of other non-dark elves?
I mean, I don't know about that specific story, but that kind of crap happens all the time. I mean,
But see, now if you're on a free
just
for all
just
server,
like
you can
just like you
that's
have
it.
people that are that are role playing mixing with the regular people, and they don't
Yeah,
want you
'cause
to kill animals, and they don't want you to kill.
I pissed off this. I picked a halfling rogue one time, and we were in the what's the starting city for? I mean, I know it's Rivervale.
Rivervale?
No, it's the Misty Thick.
Yeah, Misty Thicket. That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we were fighting these just random enemies, and I pulled like a wolf or something. And as we're killing it, the one of the halflings like that, he was playing a ranger, and I think he was role playing or something, or a druid, whatever. And he got very offended that I pulled that, and I was like, all right, whatever, I'm just not gonna pull it. But then I went back and saw another wolf and pulled him, and he
was
really got
passive
offended.
aggressively.
He quit the group because I did that. So
I do think that's kind of cool though that people are that into role playing that.
I think it's cool, but I think it's super weird sometimes because I'm I was in Rift one time and I forget what it, like these people were role playing with each other. It was like a girl and a guy, and they were just totally like I guess head over heels in the game for each other, and they were like. And he stares off into the distance and the stars and blah blah blah. I'm like, God,
yeah.
this guy.
You always have a mix of that. Though.
Dude, people
That's
used
a
to
bit
go on
much, but-
dates back in EQ1. I don't know if they still do this.
They get married. They have babies with
Yeah.
each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's the weirdest thing.
We were talking about Surefall Glade earlier. I went to a wedding in Surefall Glade. That was pretty awesome.
Did they pass out the wedding cookies or cakes or whatever they spawned?
There was cakes. There was actually they had a GM show up called the Priest of Love. It was more involved back then, with the GMs and
It was like an actual like proper marriage, or I say that it was like a GM event type thing.
That's pretty cool.
So this is
I'm already
you
tired
want
of-
crazy
I don't wanna
love
get married in a
stories. I know we're off subject a little bit here, but I was in a guild in EverQuest 1, and there was this girl, and she was I can't even remember her name or character now, but she was the kind of like you were describing. She would get way into meeting these guys on EverQuest, and they really there was this couple that was in our quest, and he lived across in Europe somewhere, and she was going to fly to meet him. It was that serious, and he got cold feet, and the whole thing ended. Well, 6 months later, she's dating somebody else in the guild, and the last thing I hear is that she moved down to Florida, and he got her pregnant. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's like some people get really into this, and the next thing you know, he left her, and there was baby, and I
wonder if that's one of those My EQ stories.
See, I think that's
None
kind
of
of
mine
cool
would be
though.
ever
I
that
do.
different.
I
No,
mean,
it's,
not
okay,
that,
it's not. No, okay, it's not that it's not cool. It's fucking insane though. Like it's crazy, crazy people are doing this, but that's fine. Like I want those crazy people to play with.
Right,
I guess,
exactly.
maybe.
And to their credit, like all these people I'm talking about, like they were really into the game, but at the same time, I loved playing the game with them. They were cool people in the game.
Yeah.
So.
It just shows you kind of like how
it
much
can happen though. If you're in a guild with somebody and you play with them
Yeah.
every day and you get to know somebody, you know what I mean, and then it just goes from there. I do think it's cool that a game like EverQuest can, you know,
It's-
And that's
like
why
say
you
this-
need boats.
But I think
yeah.
and this is where it ties into
That's
boats.
how it all. And we.
Because if they had boats, she could have just, you know, took the boat to Europe and everything would have been. You know what I mean?
Not on my boat because I would have left her ass stranded somewhere. I would have had 5 or 6 people and we just been stuck. No, but I will say this: like I felt like I legitimately had true friends in EverQuest. Like, and that's, I guess, I joke about like they're crazy people, blah blah blah. But like it kind of shows that how. I don't know, like I never felt like in any of these other MMOs I've ever felt like I was a part of a community like I was in EverQuest 1. And I don't know if there's any way to replicate that, but like I have true friends. There are people that I still can log on to and who all check, you know, friend check for them. And if I ever see them, like we'll, you know, talk. And these are people I've known now for, I don't know them in any real regard, but like I'll talk to them, and I've known them for like 10 years now, and it's cool, and I don't get that with any other MMO these days. I've never felt like I was cool with anybody like I was in EverQuest 1.
I have a couple theories as to why that is.
Hit
And these could
me.
be dead wrong. But here's a few theories that I have. I think
First one's
EverQuest-
wrong.
Damn it.
Go ahead.
No, but I you just threw me off now.
No, I'm
I
sorry.
think it's because of a few things. I think for one, the world was very dangerous, so that ties into you have to kind of you have to group. And a lot of people don't like forced grouping, but now that's forced interaction, and now you learn to rely on people, and you start to group with people more. And I think that just kind of there almost forces friendships to start to happen.
Everybody's too scared to go anywhere, so they just huddle up together.
And I think even like things like when people come around a buff or asking people for buffs or needing a port here or even a crafter for this, that kind of creates almost like a reliance on other people. And I think when you have to rely on other people, it really does strengthen a community. When everybody can do everything and there's no need for other people, there's no community.
Yeah.
But when you
which ties into like uniqueness to classes, because if you start doing this big blending, it just screws it all up.
Does any modern MMO let you proper buff people? Outside of us being in a group, like I can just walk up to you, the druid, and say, please, like, give me this, or an enchanter. What was it? Damn it, who gives clarity? Enchanters.
Enchanters,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go get breeze or clarity like that? You can't do that anymore, right?
Some games say
kind
that
of like group-wide auras.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all group based, right? Like you can't just say you can't just hustle some people for some clarity. Like that's not a thing.
You can
anymore.
make money off that in EverQuest. I mean, I used to just sit there as a druid, make money casting Spirit of Wolf on people.
Yeah.
I mean, not much, but I was poor at the time.
Yeah.
But
Dude,
I think that thing needs to come back. You can't keep limiting people to things. People
Yeah.
need to be able to do it. If I'm feeling nice and I want to go to a noob area and buff them, I should be able to.
Yeah.
I hate all these magical
Same
barriers. You know what I mean? Stop preventing people from interacting with each other. Let
If you
them do
want
it.
fast travel, go talk to a druid or a wizard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how.
Exactly.
See, now that's the type of fast travel I think should be in a game, because
Right.
because now you have to actually talk to another person,
Yeah.
and you can have a couple druid friends, and it makes druids feel more. You know what I mean? I like that. And, some
And then
people
there's
say, "Oh,
other
well,
classes, like I think wizards could do it. So maybe it's not so limited, but the point is you have to seek it out. And then a lot of times you'll see those guys, like, once again, I one of my first characters was a druid, and that's how I'd made money. I would announce that I was selling ports for, I don't remember exactly how much platinum, and you'd get people that would take you there. And I think that's a cool way to do it, because once again, it's small, but you're still interacting with people. I'm not going to click on a door that teleports me somewhere.
Doesn't that sort of have to tie into the auction system as well? Because like if you can do everything through a window, then you'll always do that. And I really wish we'd get away from the whole
It ties
auction
into
house
everything.
and mailing system. Because like I used to love back in Freeport, whenever people would announce they had I don't know if you remember this, but they had like these grab bags essentially, and you would they would say they would actually put they'd get in the trade window, show you a bag, and you would open it up, and they'd have all these random items, and they would let you kind of pick and choose through which ones you wanted, and that's another way you're interacting with people.
So the problem is, once again, we're delving off into like what we loved about it, but is it viable for bringing
I don't know,
people
because
in?
it
do.
is viable though, because like it's not like all these MMOs are releasing with all this like casual, like super accessible things and seeing all the success.
Right.
By and large, a lot of them have copied it and kind of floundered, you know. So
I mean, when you look at some of the older MMOs, a lot of them had a slower play style. You actually stopped and enjoyed, and a lot of the gameplay was interacting with the community, just talking to people, doing this. Sometimes you would get on just for a night and you would sell a few things and just have fun with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too many games now miss that. It's all about the rush and the race. Everybody's just flying to the raid and getting this gear, and it's just grind, 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 go, go, go. And I mean,
Just
I think
need
that's
to
why
go
so many
back
fail.
10 years.
They just need to slow down. Let the people get in there and enjoy the world and enjoy the other people. Get in
Well,
there.
everything we're talking about, it all comes back to from the classes to the travel to everything. If you have too much convenience and too much shortcutting everything, the world to me isn't alive because no one needs anybody. So what's the point?
Yeah, I agree.
And that goes
I know
like for
there's-
everything. The boats he was talking about, like you were saying, if you have flying mounts, well, why would I ever need to go deal with the boat if I could just quickly fast travel to wherever I want?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people who play newer MMOs, when they hear us talk about stuff like this, some
Right.
people probably cringe and are like, oh my god, but I only have an hour to get on. I can't be wasting all this time, just traveling. But way back when, you would get on for an hour and you would travel with your friends, and that was a great
Exactly.
experience. It was
I
fun.
think there's
that
a
was
balance
the game.
too. Like, I don't think you should have to require 3 hours to get anything accomplished.
Sure.
But
No,
I think there's a balance there because not everything needs to be super easy either. I'm not all for endless repetitious grinds or anything along those lines, But all this I don't know. I think travel's so huge.
They have to
such a
find
huge thing.
the middle ground, which is so much easier to say
Yeah, I
than
know.
to do. They can't do all these things we're talking about because then you're recreating EverQuest 1, but you can't make I shouldn't be able to sit in one zone and do everything I need to do.
Or even
don't
win.
meet anybody. You don't do anything.
Yeah, I want to see the whole world become the game again.
It
Like,
really
not
should be
just,
August 2nd now, man.
Not
I'm
just
really
a max level zone. I have so many wants for this game. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just go through, but I just more than anything, I want a real world. I want the world to be there, and I want
And
every
to
aspect
me, that
of it to be
requires
fun.
a lot of the
That's-
travel and a lot of the things you mentioned. Like
And that's
the
what I want.
danger. You're right. You're exactly right about that. If nothing is dangerous and you can get everywhere, there's not really a lot of a feeling of accomplishment. And I think that's one of the reasons I've had a hard time playing any of them anymore for longer than a few months.
Going back to the immersion of everything, how do you? And we don't have to go too long on this, but how do you guys feel about first person and third person? Because I know Michael is for it. I know I would be for it. I don't think it's happening. I think it's going to be a third person game, but that's one more extra step in bringing me into the world. Is when you drop EQ1 was a very first person based game. Of course, you could pop it out in third person, but it's kind of janky. But I love being playing an MMO in first person. I don't think that's happening, but I mean, is that something you guys would be okay with?
I don't think so. I started EQ in first person. I loved it, and I hated third person.
Yeah.
And when I finally made the switch to third person, now I'm the opposite.
Oh yeah.
It's my preferred way to play.
I think they should have both. I think both should
Exactly.
be viable, but I don't think they should be forced.
Well, the
on anybody.
thing is, and this is what the argument I always make. If they're gonna do both, one of them's gonna be lacking because they're gonna design the game around one primary perspective, and I think it's gonna be third person, especially when you think about how many say fluff and aesthetic items they'll have. If everybody's primary position play styles in first person, then you're gonna buy armor you're not even gonna be looking at.
But that's the same thing you could say about the old games.
No, but the old games didn't have a storefront. I'm talking more the financials of selling armor in a store, not an auction house, a station.
But
store.
you would always have the option. I think it's a given. We already know they're gonna. Third person's too popular at this point.
That's what I'm saying. It will be the primary.
All I'm asking for is that I still, if it was nobody's giving me a good reason or to feel like I can play the game well in a first person, and I prefer that. So what I'm just saying is, yeah, it doesn't have to be I'm not asking everyone else to play that way, but I think it would be cool if they actually put a little bit of effort to make it.
Here's
Yeah,
a way
I
to
agree.
make that a viable way to play. If you have combat be a little bit more of where you have to aim your arrows, aim your spells, now I think first person might be the preferred way.
Yeah.
Or just to even see what you're doing,
don't-
most people when they say what I see on a lot of things, and this goes not just for MMOs, a lot of games that do first person and third person. What they do is when they half-ass the first person, it's you just see a camera, you see nothing.
Yeah, you don't even see animations basically.
Could you give me an animation? Could you give me maybe the weapon and to the side of my view? Anything like that would help.
at least like bring you into it a little bit. Yeah, like
I actually don't like that stuff because I like to make EQ video montages, and I don't want to see my character's hands and sword. And
But couldn't
stuff.
you, you know,
but
you
you don't give a
I'm
damn
not
about
saying
your
there wouldn't be a way to
montage.
get
I know.
No, no, I'm joking. No,
Dude, I hate to interrupt, but I actually have to leave and get ready for work. You guys
Oh,
can
good
continue
lord.
though.
No, that's fine. I mean,
you
you guys want to wrap it up now?
Yeah, we can wrap it up. That's good.
Cool.
All right. Rec has spoken. This is
Done.
the end of Camp Check episode 2. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Adios.
See ya.